That's one of the ones that talks about. Did you do that, Carl? But I did a white.
Welcome everyone to the Bethel Grow Your Marriage and Conflict and Resolution Conference. Crandall warned us that we, which I think he meant I, talk louder than the speakers, so don't hold this very close to my mouth. So I'm trying not to blast you out. Okay, a few notes for you. If you didn't yet receive a goodie bag, make sure to catch us or catch Lori back at that table to get a goodie bag. Lots of people contributed to make those for you and to make them personalized and fun. And there's pens and some other things in there that you might use throughout the conference. You also should have like a Grow Your Marriage workbook. Ned, will you hold that up? Somewhere at your table. And there will be parts where everybody has to write some things down, so you also should have some blank journals at your table, so you could use those to write your responses. Let's see. In your goodie bags, there's like a booklet. We just picked some good booklets about conflict, about marriage, about relationships. If maybe about in-laws, we were not like, oh, let's pick housemans and pick which one should go in theirs or anything weird like that, okay? So if you don't like the booklet that's in your bag, or if you see something you like better, that whole resource table right back there by the door is for you guys to pick things that if you would use them, we want you to take them. So there's lots of books and booklets that could be helpful. Several other people have been working really hard to provide lots of great refreshments. So there's food in the hall and water and coffee straight back. And you can feel free to get up and refill that as we're going. There will be lots of natural times when you're supposed to write some things down and you can jump up, or just whenever. That is completely fine. And then most of the food is labeled to try to warn for any normal allergies or food preferences, but if you have any questions, Shauna, who is at the back, would answer about if you're just wondering, I think I can have this, but I want to double check. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Well, we're really glad each one of you guys are here for this conference. We have been praying for this conference for a long time, and it's cool to see it all come together, and all the people that have been working from food to table setup to decorations, to the speakers coming from Albania. Well, you came to America, and then you came from Chicago too. But yeah, God is going to do something here. We've been praying for that. We're eager to see it, and so it's my job right now to introduce you guys, all of you, to Ned and Jorid. All right, so they are missionaries from Albania, and a lot of what they do there, I'm going to check the note just so I don't forget, is counseling, teaching, preaching, camps, marriage week, developing resources, equipping individuals and churches to minister to families. So I believe that God's equipped you to really be helpful to us, to encourage our souls, encourage our marriages this weekend. How we got connected with them is interesting. So Ned grew up in Chicagoland at Winnetka Bible Church, which some of you know as, where's Aaron? Oh, where Aaron came from. Aaron came to Bethel from Winnetka Bible Church. So Aaron did a marriage conference with Ned and Jorid 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And so that is why he wanted to bring them in here when we had the opportunity. When we were thinking of having a marriage conference, they were the top of his recommendation. And by God's grace, it worked for them too. So, without further ado, I will pray for you guys and hand the mics to you. Lord, we thank you for this time. We thank you for bringing each and every one of us into this room. You have a purpose for each one of us that you're accomplishing. You have a purpose for each marriage in this room that you're going to see through. And Lord, we just ask for your mercy, for your presence here with us, for your Spirit to be working, and that through your word and through Ned and Jorid's teaching, that you would benefit us all. We look forward to the fulfillment of this, and we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Wow. This is a cool place. We were really enjoying being here. I'm Ned.
And I'm Jorid. So I know my name is strange. I'm sorry, my mom gave it to me. I'm Norwegian. So if you want to try to say my name, you can just think about you read. So if you say you read fast, you read, yes.
I've been working on it for almost 30 years, about 30 years now. So I'm getting
about
better.
to get it, yeah.
I'm getting better at it. So yeah, well, we're excited. You guys are here. Beyond our imagination that there would be how many, up to 37, 38 couples in one room. Mm-hmm. You set off time, you made sacrifice, you made arrangements for kids and other things. Maybe you gave things up to be here for tonight and maybe for tomorrow too. And that's exciting that you've got that desire to make an investment into your marriage, something that is super, super precious and something that we are excited to share from our lives about a little bit too. So we thought we'd start by introducing ourselves a little bit more, and we can't do that without talking about our family.
Yeah. So we're blessed with 3 kids. We have Nathan, that's 26, Marcus, that's 24, and Lydia, that's 22. And of course, they all left us a long time ago, so we feel really lonely in Albania. But, that's part of life. They grow up and they go out, and you hope that when they leave, that they have got a good base with them in life to fly far away wherever God has led them. So they're all grown up in Albania because that's where we met. Yes.
Nathan lives in Nicaragua. He's been there for 4 years almost, working with a community development organization, a Christian organization doing community development there. Marcus is in the Chicago area, and Lydia is finishing her nursing degree at Cedarville University, where we know some other Cedarville grads right back here. Amazing education, and she'll be finishing that up, and we'll be going to her graduation in a few weeks. So that was the first kind of motivation that we're definitely coming back to the States in the spring. And then God opened doors for us to be here and back at my home church in the Chicago area and with our family a bit. So this is a special time for us to be back in the States, and we're glad we can start with you all. So we'll share more about us along the way, but we thought, maybe you don't, we just met somebody that said, I don't even know where Albania is, and probably a lot of us in this room don't, and that's not a problem because it's a tiny little place and most people don't know about it. But I didn't put a map about Albania, but we'll show you a few pictures just so you know where we're coming from.
Yeah. And this is kind of how Albania looked like when I came there the first time in 1990, but in 92, 93, we both moved there in 93. So Albania is just north of Greece, just across from Italy. So it's in the southern part of Europe. So now you know where it is.
So this was a typical scene. It wasn't like downtown Denver or Chicago. It was very different from the worlds we came from, or Thessaloniki or Athens, but it's a very poor country. It was especially poor when we went there 30 years ago. Today it's changed. It's become a busy place with lots of traffic, lots of noise, lots of activity, and they've huge changes in the last 30 years. So a little contrast from before to after.
And if you didn't know it, Albania was a communist nation for over 50 years. And in 1967, it was proclaimed to be the first atheistic nation of the world. So if you professed Christ, you would most likely go to prison. None of the beliefs were allowed. In Albania, it's Muslim is the biggest part of the population. Then it's Orthodox, Catholic, and then there is less than 1% evangelical Christians. Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, so there was absolutely no public or private practice of faith, religion in any way allowed from 1967 all the way to 1991, with grave consequences. So there wasn't even an underground church, like you heard about in the Eastern Bloc, in Russia, in Germany, in Czechoslovakia, and all. Almost absolutely nothing. Today, they've gone to another side where we can have open meetings in public. This is an Easter meeting in one of the main squares in the capital city a few years ago, where the churches came together to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, singing praise, preaching the word of God for all to hear, and doing it freely in that nation. So we feel like we live in a miracle in that place, even though we're praying and crying out to God for much more, because if less than 1% of the population know Jesus as their Savior and Lord, there's a lot to do still. But still, from 0 to 20,000 or 20 to 30,000 believers, that's amazing. And so, yeah, we're grateful that we have seen this freedom and this growth in the last 30 years.
And Albania is a beautiful place. It's got lots of mountains, so it's not just in Colorado you have mountains, but we have some mountains in Europe too. And actually 72% of Albania is mountainous. So there isn't much else than mountains. But then we have beautiful beaches. And it's a beautiful nation. But sadly, the people don't see the beauty of their nation because of all the challenges that they're facing. And I think that's pretty normal. Many of us, we don't see the beauty where we are because there are so many hardships that we're facing.
Yeah, and that originates in the heart, I guess. So when we don't know God and are in awe of Him, the Creator of the universe, the Creator of me, then we don't take care of it like we should. And so this is just a scene from Albania too, a path that's littered with trash. People just throwing trash and not taking care of the beautiful land that God's given them. So there is a lot to do in people's hearts, but a lot of practical things as well. And that's one of the reasons why we really felt like God was calling us to work with families and marriages, because we knew that the future of that nation and the future of every nation depends on the health of marriages and families, and people getting into and embracing and walking in the call that God has for us, which is something very beautiful, very wonderful. So that's just a little introduction, but we'll tell you some more stories along the way.
I'm sorry you weren't warned that you were coming to a missions evening, So it's just, we can't help ourselves.
We can't help it, no.
No, so.
But as you were told, we're going to be talking about communication and conflict tonight. Maybe it sounds a little heavy. I hope it won't be heavy. We want to stick to the positive side of things. And, we have so much on our hearts we want to share. And we only have, a little over an hour now to do it. So I don't know how we're going to do that. But we're going to do our best.
We're going to talk really fast.
Yeah, but these topics are so important in God's kingdom. And after all, God Himself is the great communicator. He is we communicate because He was the great communicator first. And Jesus, we know He is the Prince of Peace. And He's given us the ministry of reconciliation. And I just thought we could read that verse from 2 Corinthians together as a start. It says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation." Praise God. Wow. "The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. All this is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to Himself. And not only that, He gave us the ministry of reconciliation." That's amazing. God entrusts that to us. And I think the best place to practice that, the best place to use that ministry or to work in that ministry is that in our home, in our marriages, the ministry of reconciliation, to walk in peace, walk in love, walk in truth together in unity and in love. So, but we decided from the beginning that because the time is short and there's a lot we could say, but we don't want to just give an information dump and dump all this stuff, all these shoulds and woulds and coulds on you, and you guys feel heavier when you go out than when you came tonight. So we're going to try our best to not burden you down, and we're going to try our best to keep things simple and clear and positive and practical and personal. And if you think that's not enough, after we go, Aaron, you could do a whole preaching series on these topics, and you can go really deep and
And he can do it in
exegete all
Greek,
these
and he can
things.
do it in Hebrew, and I don't know what the other language, so.
But we've got 70 minutes here. We're going to talk about conflict and communication, and we're going to do our best. So
Yes. So, relationships. I really believe that that's something that God really has on his heart. I mean, he was in relationship and he created us for relationship. And I think that's something that's so close to what he wants to see us having success in life. It's important to God. So that must mean that it should be important to us too, as we are his followers. Or what do you think? I think I really like this verse that it says in Romans 12:18. It says, if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. I don't know how that's for you. It's not so hard for me to live at peace with those that's out there. It's harder for me to live at peace with the one I have in my house. So through the time, you will learn much more about us and the peace that we're trying to create in our home. But I think that right from the beginning, God has had relationship as his high priority. And we were created in his image. So if it was important for him, it should be important for us. He created man and woman to be united as one and live in perfect harmony together in his presence. So, God must be the starting point, and that's why we put that slide up. What can we learn from God about relationships? What is it that we see in God that we can learn? I mean, he created everything, and he did an amazing job. And I find it so amazing that he wants us to be an image of him here on earth. I mean, he must know that we aren't that great at doing it, but he still entrusted that for us to be his image here on earth.
yeah, so God's relationship in the Trinity, and he always existed in relationship. He didn't create us because he was lonely and he didn't have anybody to talk to. He existed in relationship. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So the Trinity is our model. The Trinity is our model for our relationships, for our marriages as well. And we wanted just to start out with a little discussion and an exercise, because we're not going to do all the talking tonight. We want to involve you all, and we want to get you talking to each other as well. But the question I have for us is, what do you see in the Godhead that we are meant to emulate in our relationships, especially in marriage? So when you think about God, what are some of those characteristics, some of those traits that you see in him that we should have?
And you have room here on page 5 to write down some of those things.
Yeah, in fact, I encourage you to write some of these down, because we're just going to get different ideas. And with this list, and I won't have it up here on the screen, but with this list, we're going to then ask you to look at that list and think about it and talk about it. But just whoever feels bold and just can speak it out or raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable with. What are some things you see in God that we should have in our relationships? Yeah. Unity.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm going to go with the obvious answer here for this topic, and that's communication.
Communication.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Faithfulness.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's grace.
It's grace. Grace in marriage. Wow, that's really good. Yes? Patience. Yeah. Forgiveness. Well, did they have to forgive each other? I don't know. But I mean, forgiveness for sure. But that's how he relates to us, that definitely. Uh-huh. Sorry? Submission. Yeah, there's mutual submission in the Trinity. Have you thought about that? When we talk about that word submission, sometimes it's like, but it existed before we did in the Trinity, in God. We read it in the Scripture, indeed.
What else do you see in the...
Compassion.
Yeah.
That's right. There's compassion in the Trinity.
Joy.
Joy? Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff. Your lists are getting filled up there.
Love.
Love.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes. I was waiting for that one. God is love, right? That's a Bible verse, isn't it, Pastor Aaron? God is love.
Yeah.
Indeed. Sorry? Peace. Yes. We know Jesus is the Prince of Peace.
Comfort.
Comfort. Yeah. Yeah. Where did Christ go when he needed comfort? He went
To the Father.
on his knees to the Father. Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you can think about?
How about diversity in the Trinity? It's not the Father, and the Father, is it? There's diversity in the Trinity, and there's diversity in us. Sometimes that's great, sometimes that's really tough. What else do you? Understanding. Yes. Servitude, that's right. There's a servant attitude in the Trinity itself. Yep.
I was thinking about humility. I think there were a lot of humility, that they trusted one another. Trust.
That's another one.
Yeah. Loyalty.
Reliance and reliability.
Yeah, so like interdependence, kind of, and reliability, so like faithfulness. Is that kind of what you meant by reliability? Or, yeah, reliance, reliability.
Is there justice in there?
Justice in the Trinity. What do you think? Yeah, God is just. Sure. I don't think that there was any sin, so there wasn't any justice meted out upon each other in the Trinity, but yes. Let me see, what else is there?
One thing I like to think about is that they had a great teamwork.
Yeah.
They worked really well together. But they have different roles, but they weren't scared of each other because they had different roles.
Yeah. I mean, when you see the creation around us, it was a team project. The Trinity, creating this earth. It wasn't just the Father or just the Son or just the Holy Spirit. Teamwork. Right. Let's see what else. You guys have gotten pretty much what I also wrote down equality. There was equality in the Trinity. There wasn't, imbalance. There's perfect balance and equality there. There's lots of stuff we could think of. So hopefully you have built a list there. Of course, we're not going to come up with a complete list, but the idea is that God is our model. When you want to think about how do we want to be, what do we want our marriage to be like, what's our ideal? We may have human models here, and that's great. People we admire, we respect, but our perfect model is God himself. So we want to take that and other things that maybe didn't get spoken out that you might have in your head and your heart, to, page 5 in the booklet, and exercise the Trinity as our model. So either you put it in your little booklet or you put it in this manual that we have, a list of stuff. And number 1 there, it says, choose one characteristic that you are emulating well as a couple. You can do this on your own, each as an individual. Write down some things that you feel like, hey, we're doing well in this as a couple or as a family. Write down how you see that being expressed in your marriage or in your family. And then the second question is, choose one characteristic that you would like to work on to strengthen in your marriage, something that maybe isn't your strongest point. I don't want to look at it in a negative way, but we always have room to grow. So an area that you feel challenged, convicted, or encouraged to work on, and write it down. So take a couple minutes as individuals and look at that list that you've built and think about what are we doing well, how are we doing that well, and then what do we need to improve on, and maybe what could we do, a step that we could do to become more like God in our relation to reflect him better. We'll give you a few minutes for that. Then when you've had a few minutes, then we'll give you a chance to talk together about it. Okay? So go for it. So it looks like most of you are talking together, but if you haven't started sharing what you wrote down, go ahead and do that. We'll give you a few more minutes to share some of your thoughts with each other. We won't ask you to share it in front of the group, so don't worry about that. This is just between you two. I want to encourage you too to pray together and thank God for His example and His presence and His help in these things, in these decisions or these desires you've expressed together to grow, to be more like Him. So thank Him for His example, His presence, and His help.
Take a minute to do that.
Great. Well, I want to encourage you. God is for you in that. So if you made a resolution like, hey, we want to grow in the area of commitment, or we want to grow in the area of mutual submission, or we want to grow in the area of teamwork, He's for you in that. He wants you to be more like Him. It's His will for you. So as you pray toward that end, He is standing with you, cheering and saying, yes, I will fulfill that as you walk forward by faith in unity. Yeah. So that's what we prepared, and I guess that about sums it up, right? Be like God, and everything will work itself out, and it will go according to His plans. So thank you, everyone. Good night. That's no, but
That would be wonderful, but no. Relationships aren't that easy, actually. I don't know about you. I mean, sometimes I'm even in opposition to myself. I mean, I can barely handle myself sometimes. So what about other people around me? I mean, it's hard sometimes, but it's also beautiful because I'm learning so much through being close to other people. So what happened back in the days when Adam and Eve rebelled and sinned? What happened?
that's right. Things went bad. Things went bad right from the beginning, That's when shame entered the world, when fear entered the world, when blame entered the world, when death entered the world. Relationships were broken. And, Adam said when God called out, where are you? And he's like, well, what did you guys do? What did you get into here? And he's like, hey, God, that woman that you gave to me. So he started pointing his finger at God, first of all. You gave me this one, and she gave me the apple. It was
No, but it was the serpent that told me to do that, you know. Yeah.
It
Wasn't my fault either. Don't blame me.
It was the birth of finger pointing, of shirking responsibility. And you know, we are all sons and daughters of Adam, and we're all, we've inherited this curse, and we all have this tendency to try to shirk the responsibility, and we have these same struggles today. But the good thing is that God's original plan has not changed. His plan is still in force. And Jesus confirmed this when he prayed to the Father, and he said, you know, he prayed that we might be one, the church, but we're a mini church here. We might be one as they are one, so that the world would see his glory and know the truth. So our becoming one, our growing together into the plan that God has for us, serves for God's greater purposes, that the world would know, that his glory would go to the ends of the earth. It's not just about us. You know, that's what we thought when we were first married. Like, this is beautiful. We're in this bubble of love, and it's wonderful, but it's much, much bigger than that. It's much bigger than God. God has a bigger plan than we first thought. And he wants the world to see his glory through us.
And that sounds a bit scary, to be honest. That we should be an example for who he is, because I know my weaknesses. I know all our shortcomings. I mean, Ned and me, we have been married for 28 and a half years now. I think that's amazing in itself, you know. That's good, you know. We have made it so far. But we have plenty of experiences of miscommunication, conflict. I mean, sometimes I felt I laid in this bed and there was an iceberg between us, you know. It's like, but
Not just because you're from Norway.
not just because I'm from the northern part
She's
of
from
Norway.
the Arctic Circle,
Yeah, I'm from-
literally.
yes.
She's from a little island up at the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
So,
But I think all of us, if you've been married for a few days or a few weeks, you know that marriage can be challenging. But it's also so rewarding. I don't want to just say that it's challenging, because it's so beautiful at the same time. And that's why we are here, and that's why you are here, I believe, that you have understood that it's important to invest into your marriage. But we are so different.
we are. We're different sexes. That's a big difference.
We're different personalities.
We come from different families.
Yeah, very different cultures too.
We have very different communication patterns.
We have different needs.
And different preferences and desires and interests.
And very different dreams.
Yeah, and we have different capacities.
And different friends sometimes too, yeah.
And definitely different idiosyncrasies.
And different political views. You know, I'm a Norwegian, yeah.
But we're called to be together. We're called to be one. The two shall become one. That's God's plan. That's God's desire. That's God's will for us. But hey, it's normal that we have differences, and these differences can cause difficulties between us. They can cause friction. And when this friction is heated up, it can blow up into outright conflict sometimes. And that happens. That's normal. We have to admit that. Conflict is normal. And it's not necessarily even wrong. We're going to talk about conflict now or soon, but it's not about will we have conflict, it's how are we going to handle the conflict when it comes. Because we are so different in so many ways that we're going to bump into each other. We're going to have friction. We're going to have a different opinion, a different need, and a different capacity. And it's going to be tough sometimes. But what do we do when the going gets tough? Are we going to handle the conflict well, or are we going to handle it poorly? Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about something else. And you know the saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Is that how it goes? Yeah. So let's talk about a little prevention. We like to talk about that more than the cure. But it's often cited that probably the major factor in problems in relationships is poor communication. So you know that's part of the plan for tonight, communication and conflict. So we're gonna go into communication first, because I think if we get the communication going well or improving, then that relieves a lot of the issues that had the conflict in our relationships.
So, can we have the next picture, please?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. Yes.
Communication.
So why is communication so difficult? I don't know. Actually, I think it's impossible to not communicate. Have you thought about that? I think whatever we do communicate.
Even when you're not talking to me?
Yeah, even when I'm not talking to you, I'm communicating something, aren't I? Yes. But the good thing is that we all can learn. Maybe you say, well, I can't, it's just too difficult. But look, we can all learn new skills. We can all learn new languages. I mean, I'm speaking your language. I think that's a miracle in itself. I was a D student in English, you know. I nearly flunked out of school. So if I can do it, you can do it. That's my encouragement to you. Don't give up, you know. There are so many different elements to our communication.
Yeah, so communication, what makes communication? What are elements of communication? Any suggestions? Yes?
Nonverbal.
So nonverbal, like
Eye contact.
eye contact, facial expression, our gestures, right? No, I didn't say anything, but I communicated something. He's crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
So nonverbal, what else? Listening, okay,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Very important.
Very important. We'll talk a lot about that.
Words.
Words,
Words.
yes. Words are helpful.
Sometimes.
Being precise with our words. Sometimes communication doesn't work because we're not precise.
Yeah.
But words, yes. Understanding. Yes. That's the
Yeah.
goal, isn't it, in the end? To understand each other. Yeah. The tone of voice. Exactly. So we've got all these things, these elements, including, the tone of voice, the understanding, the listening, the nonverbals, the words we use. Those all together form communication. Now, maybe we estimate the power of words, or the part of words that words have in communication. There's a really well-known study, and they looked at those three aspects: the nonverbal, the tone of voice, and the words. What percentage of communication do you think they found that words were in the message, in communicating a message? Does anybody know that study? If you
104.
It was actually 7%. 7%. 55% of the message was nonverbal, the facial expressions, the gestures, our body position, and then 38% was the tone of voice. So our words, our message is much more than just our words. And I'll give you a very short example. The word yes. What does that mean? Well, we all know what yes means. But what if you say, yes? It's not just yes. It's like, I'm tired of you not listening to me. You've got to get the message. Or I'm really impatient and I'm really mad at you. Or it says much more than yes. Or if you say, yeah. It's like, that probably means no. Like, I disagree, right? Yes can mean no. Or yes? Like, I think maybe, but I'm not so sure, but I said yes, but... So yes doesn't always mean yes. It depends on what kind of tone of voice we used, our gestures, our nonverbals. We need to be careful with how we communicate. It's much more than just words.
I just want to tell you a short thing. We live in Albania, and in Albania, when they say yes, they do this. And when they say no, they do this.
It's true.
It's
you
very,
talk to somebody and they're shaking their head like this.
It's very confusing. So when I went
like,
back to Norway and I spoke to my sister and I said, yes, she was like, stop it, just stop it,
Yeah, it's confusing. We learned that part of Albanian without trying. You just start to move your head the way they do, or they do kind of this too, and that has meaning. So so we heard the goal of communication, it's understanding. It's not about agreeing all the time, because there are lots of times we can communicate well and still not agree. But if we don't understand each other, the communication didn't really work well at all. And I want to tell a very short story about a man I know in Albania named Kadri. Kadri is an older man, and his daughter had a very severe condition of scoliosis, very severe scoliosis. She was hunched over like this. And God opened a lot of doors that we were able to help her come to America to get a series of surgeries to correct this scoliosis and change her life, really. But because she wasn't 18 yet, she needed to have the signature of her parents to allow her to travel and to go and get these procedures done. And Kadri, well, you know how American doctors are. They'll tell you all of the risks, right? And when you see those commercials on TV, you know, they speak really fast. That's something we don't have in Albania, so I always laugh when those commercials come on here. But the doctor told him, you know, there's a risk that your daughter would be paralyzed because these are very delicate surgeries. They're very dangerous, risky surgeries. There's a 1 in 500 chance that your daughter could end up paralyzed. And Kadri only heard the word paralyzed. And he was like, nope, no way, no, she's not going to do that. It's not for her. And we knew that this was a chance of a lifetime for her to get life-changing surgery. So I thought, how do I communicate to Kadri to help him give his approval for his daughter to get this amazing surgery by professionals, some of the best in the world at the Shriners Children's Hospital in Chicago. And I thought, well, I need to speak his language. I need to speak in a way that he understands. So I took a jar and a bunch of white beans, dried white beans, because white beans, they call them fasule in Albanian. That's like the staple food. That's what they eat, white bean soup all winter long. So everybody knows fasule. And I said, Kadri, here's a jar, and it's full of 500 fasule. And look, here, I'm going to color one of these black. So a jar of white beans, and one of them is black. Do you see the white bean, Kadri? Here, let's put it in there. The black bean, we'll put it in there. We'll shake it up. Now close your eyes and reach in and pull out one of those beans. Of course he pulled out a white bean. Let's try it again. He pulled out another white bean. I said, the chance of your daughter being paralyzed is like you closing your eyes and pulling out that black bean. And I said, let's try to find it. And even shaking the jar and looking around, it was hard to even find it with our sight, where that black bean was. And it was like the light went on inside of him, oh, yeah, I think this is a good idea for my daughter to go. And he did. He signed the paper, and she was able to go and get this surgery. And praise God, her life has been really transformed, and she's gotten to know the love of Christ too. Mm-hmm. And so her life has been transformed in more than one way because of that whole story. But communication is about understanding. Yes.
Skipped a few of them.
Did we skip some?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I was supposed to show you that. That was a nice little graphic we found on the internet about those words and voice. Some of you are more visual learners, so there it is.
Better late than never, yes. So in your booklet, there is that saying there, speak in such a way that others love to listen to you, and listen in such a way that others love to speak to you. I have tried to learn this over and over again, because sometimes I'm not so good at listening. I'm very good at speaking, or I like to speak. I'm maybe not so good at speaking, but I love speaking. But that can also be a hinder in our relationship, because Ned, the whole day here, it's like this mosquito running around. All day long, it's like after a while, you block it out. So I've had to learn to speak in such a way that Ned actually wants to listen to me. And I've also had to learn to just shut my mouth and use my ears and really listen, to draw him out.
Because she's got more words than I do.
Yeah.
So it's a skill for her also to draw me out, to find out what's inside of me and help me express that.
But that, of course, that was one of the things I really liked with Ned, was that he was a quiet guy, he was thinking a lot. At least in the beginning, I loved it. After a while, it became really annoying, yes. But we've been working on it. I'm sure some of you, just like me, we've been trying to change our spouse. And I can say 99.9%, none of us have had much success in that. So we're not going to try to change one another, but we're going to try to learn to be better communicators and to really spend time listening to one another and encouraging one another in speaking. So on page 7, you have a little graph here.
Well, wait, before we get to that,
Okay.
are
Yes.
we miscoordinated here?
Yes, we're miscoordinated.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Everyone, listening is key here, and the verse we picked was from James 1:19. It says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. You know, that's the word of God. There it is, quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I think God understands our weaknesses, the places where we trip up the most, and usually it's not about saying the right thing at the right time. It's about not saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. The Holy Spirit, that's His delight and His desire to help us to learn to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And listening is really key. How many times have I gotten myself in trouble because I didn't really listen to Jorid?
Quite a few, I would say.
And I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so too.
Yeah, it would have been smart of you to listen to me.
Listen to your wives. That's the other thing. We can just close off with that tonight. And
Yeah.
well, everything will be much, much better.
Happy wife, happy life. Don't you know that? Yeah.
Don't you get more trouble for speaking, though?
Yes. Well, that can be true too. When stick your foot in your mouth is a bad thing too. But listening is key. If we want to grow in our communication as a couple, growing in our listening skills is really going to help us out.
And when we listen to one another, it's really a gift that we give to one another. It's time that we spend. And I think in English you say, do you say that in English? Time is money? I think we say it in Norwegian, even though I think you live it much more in English in America than we do in Norway. Time is money. So if you can think about that, the time you give to each other, listening to one another, it's an investment into your relationship. It's a beautiful gift that you give to one another. And I think that the world is dying for people that are willing to listen. There's way too much talking. We all value when people listen to us, don't we? I don't know, at least I value very much when people take the time to sit down and listen to me. How do you feel when somebody takes the time and listen to you? Do you like that? Why? Why do you like that people listen to you?
It makes you feel loved.
Makes you feel loved, yeah.
Validated. Yep.
Feel
Valued.
valued, yeah.
Special.
Feel special.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to.
Feel
Yeah.
listened to, yeah.
So I've been thinking about this. I think that a lot of folks would say, yeah, I know, but I try to listen and I'm not a good listener. So how can someone grow as a listener if they don't feel like they're very good at it? Because sometimes you say, well, you should be slow to speak, but I think I know some guys, and I sometimes am one of them, who even if they're not talking, they're not listening. So how do you grow as a listener?
Great question. And we want to talk about that, and we want to get you listening to each other too. Because like we were saying, when you're listened to, it's like giving a gift. When you listen to your spouse or listen to someone else, it's like giving them a gift. They feel valued, they feel validated, they feel accepted, they feel safe, they feel loved when you listen. And when Jorid really listens to me, when Jorid really listens to my heart, a desire grows within me to be closer to her. It draws us together. It really does. So how can we listen? We can be there and present, but not really listen. And that's usually where our problems rise up, isn't it?
I don't know, maybe it's just in our family, but we have this thing, I'm talking and I just say, and then suddenly I realized he didn't listen to me at all. He was there, in body he was there, but his mind wasn't there, And I can do the same sometimes. We need to be there for one another, we need to put away those things we're doing. We have decided that it's not effective to communicate 2 rooms away from one another. Usually we have no success in that. I'm in the kitchen and he's over in the office and I'm talking in the opposite direction. He will never hear me,
It was a great preaching, though.
It was a wonderful preaching, and I had some brilliant ideas, but he didn't hear it.
Well, maybe before we talk about what are good listening skills or good things to put into practice, what are some things that show that we're not listening? What are bad listening skills?
You start talking before they're done talking.
Yeah, so when you interrupting, yeah, that's...
When you're thinking about the next thing you're going to say rather than your
Yes,
Yeah.
and you can tell when somebody's doing that, can't you? Like, they're not listening to me, they're just building up their
Preparing
argument to slam me,
When you aren't showing eye contact.
Okay, right, when I'm just kind of like, yeah. That's what we say to our kids, like, look me in the eye. I want to communicate with you. I want to know that you're listening to me.
Distractions.
Yeah, we're easily distracted, right? Isn't it so true? Like, ding, ding, ding. We're somewhere else, though. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about when we're missing those nonverbals? Like, we're taking every word literally, but we're not. We're ignoring the tone of voice, we're ignoring the facial expressions, the gestures, and we're missing the context, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What if we make negative assumptions, like they said this and they must mean that, and we're interpreting things negatively? That's not good listening skills either. So what about good listening skills?
The opposite of all that we said, maybe.
Yeah.
To really be there, to even put away things and decide that we actually turn towards one another,
Yeah.
fully present.
I mean, when you turn physically, you turn your bodies toward each other, you're turning your hearts toward each other too, really. It does something to your heart. I am present, I'm here, you're the center of my attention right now. It says something, doesn't it?
And maybe another thing we can do is if we don't get it totally, maybe we could ask a clarifying question. Just say, I heard you say this, but was this what you really meant? Or did you mean something else? Then we give the other person an opportunity to clarify.
Yep.
Instead of having a big misunderstanding.
Yep. That attitude of, I want to understand you, so I'm going to ask, I'm not going to ask questions to try to trip you up, but try to understand. That's the motivation. I want to understand. And the question supports that. I want to help you communicate the full message. That's another attitude. I'm here to help you. Like I said before, it helps me a lot of times. I'm a man of few words, and by her encouragement, I can share more deeply. She might say, tell me more. It's an invitation to keep going. Not okay, now you said your thing, I'm going to tell you my bit. But no, tell me more. I'm ready. I'm hearing you. I want to know more.
Somebody out there said that you feel validated when somebody listens to you. And we can validate one another. When we really listen to one another, we give the other person value. We invest, we spend the time, we give them our time.
Yeah, and showing empathy, like, wow, that must have really been tough. Tell me more. Just a little thing like that, to say, I'm connecting to the emotions, not just the message, but how that impacted you personally. And I want you to share more with me. I want you to share more of your heart. Yeah.
I believe to become a better listener, what do we need to do? We need to practice. It's like maybe I don't want so much bigger muscles, but if you want bigger muscles, you need to do something to get those muscles. I believe it's the same with listening. You know, I need to learn to give the time, to be patient to Ned, because I'm the one that interrupts all the time, because I think I have such amazing ideas, you know, that he needs to hear it, but I need to learn to just be quiet.
Or finish my sentences, and I'm like,
Yes.
no, I wasn't actually going to say that.
Yeah.
But if you let me have a chance, so
Yes.
we want to give you. Oh yeah, let's go through this too, because
You jumped over it.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I jumped over it. I'll take responsibility. Page 7, there's a little graphic, and if you've got good glasses or a good sight, you can see there's a kind of a picture of a house, and you know, listening and speaking, communicating, it happens on different levels. And in marriage, it's really important to get to the upper levels of communication. So we'll start in the bottom. We'll go through these really quickly, but you see the little graphic there on page 7.
So we have called it a basement of criticism, but I realize in America, you have such beautiful basements. You know, we live in a beautiful basement these days. But really, in my house in Norway, on this little island, our cellar was nasty. You know, when Mom told me to go and get the potatoes, I was, I hate it, because it was full of spider web and all kind of stuff. That's not where we want to live. We don't want to live in the place of complaint and critics, because that's not a nice place. When you get visitors, you don't bring them down into your potato cellar, you know. You want to take them into your living room. You want to present nice things. So try to not spend so much time in that cellar.
You know, sometimes you have to do a little work down there. Go down there, get it done, and get out as quick as possible. But we don't live down in the cellar of criticism. But the next level, the first level in the upper levels, is the greetings level. And that's something that we do every day. It just shows respect to people. It shows that people value. You can give greetings to anybody, people you know, people you don't know, people you like, people you don't like, people you respect, even people you disrespect, you don't respect. You can say, good morning, how are you? You know.
You Americans are really good at that. It's amazing how friendly you are, you know. And you come to Europe and you think nobody likes one another because we don't see one another. But you greet people, and that's a beautiful thing. You give value to the other person because you see them and you say, hello, how are you? You might not take the time to listen, but you know.
It's important.
Anyway.
It's important in every relationship and in the marriage relationship, but we don't want to just stick on that level, like, good morning, see you tonight, and that's the extent of our communication.
Yeah.
There's much more, isn't there?
We don't want to just live on that other level either, where we give each other information. You know, today I'm going to do this, and that, and I hope you. Yeah.
I'll be home at 5, and then we need to get to the kids to the practice, and it's just coordinating information and schedules, and it's important to do, right? We need to exchange information and share information, but
we need to grow.
Yeah.
You know, we can share our opinions. Sometimes that's a bit scary because we might have different opinions, but you get to know one another better when you share your opinions and your dreams.
And listen to each other's opinions and just accept them for who they are, even though they may have a different opinion than you.
Yes,
right?
Many times you do. But
It's
okay.
We're getting a little higher on the thing.
Yeah.
You don't share your opinions with everybody, do you? Like, I don't know that person. I don't trust them so well. I don't think I'm going to share my opinion about that with them. And that's okay. But in a marriage relationship, of course, we need to be able to freely share our opinions and listen and respect each other's opinions as well.
Then we go one step higher, and that's about feelings. Sometimes in the morning when we sit by the breakfast table, I ask Ned, so how are you feeling today? And Ned starts, I think that I will do this. No, it wasn't about thinking, it was about feeling, you know. Sometimes we need to dare to go up on the feeling level too in our communication.
When we want to cultivate intimacy in our relationship, we need to be communicating on a feelings level too. Good and negative feelings. Deep feelings and surface feelings. Light things and heavy things. But to be able to share our feelings and support each other in those feelings.
What if you struggle to know what your feelings are?
Yeah. Isn't that, is that not only me? Some other people have that? Yeah. Well, that's where Jorid is such a gift for me, because by her listening well, by her asking questions, by her saying, tell me more, what did that mean to you? Wow, that must have been difficult. How did you feel then? You know, it draws things out of me. And sometimes I'm not sure. I can say, I don't know what I feel. Or sometimes maybe we're feeling multiple emotions at the same time, and they're even conflicting. I'm feeling mad and excited, and I'm feeling nervous and happy. And, you know, how do all these things, I have a hard time understanding those, but my wife is a big gift to me, and having people in our lives that can help draw those out of us is a big help, really. Maybe we just grew up in a house where we didn't express our emotions and feelings, and it's not natural. Others, well, they live with their feelings, right?
A bit too much, maybe, sometimes, but, you know.
But that's the beauty in marriage. By listening and by asking good questions and by being present, we can bring a balance into that, and we can help each other out. We can complement each other. So the top level, because we don't have a lot of time, we could have done a whole teaching on just this, what we call the house of communication, is that I called it the here I am level. Like, here I am, you see it all, you know it all, there's nothing hidden. Like, you know, when God called Isaiah and he said, who will go? And Isaiah, I can imagine him just being like, here I am, God. You know me inside and out. My good stuff and my bad stuff, my strengths and my weaknesses. I'm part of this people that, is not in a good place, got unclean lips. But here I am. If you want to use me, But in our relationship, in marriage relationship, where we get to that completely vulnerable place, I'm giving you my heart. You could crush me now, or you could love me. And I trust that you'll love me. So here I am. I want you to know me completely, fully, all the good stuff, all the hang-ups.
And we will talk more about that tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's good. You can't always live on those top levels. We have to talk, greet each other. We have to exchange information. We have to coordinate our schedules. We have to share our opinions, our frustrations. But there are times where we really need to connect heart to heart. So we want to get you guys moving. We want to get you guys, you've been listening too long to us now. You need to listen to each other. So this is not in your booklet, but it's an exercise in active listening. Take turns sharing one or two things that have spoken to you thus far in this conference. Share that. Take a minute to think about it, and then take turns. One person will be the speaker, the other will be the listener. And don't just repeat content that you've heard, but share your thoughts, your feelings, your desires, something that's challenged you, something that's spoken to you, something from your heart. And the listener, like we said, has that task of understanding and drawing out the speaker. So you'll have 2 minutes to share something, and be a good listener, ask good questions, look at the nonverbals, reflect back the message. I hear you saying this, tell me more, invite them to share more, encourage them, reflect back their feelings as well. I see, you're excited about that, tell me more. So each of you will have a turn. Share for 2 minutes, listen well, give them your full attention, be fully present, and then switch roles. Okay, so you have about 5 minutes now. Think for a minute, and then each of you share for a couple minutes. One or two things that have spoken to you. Okay, one more minute or 30 seconds. I don't know, maybe it was too short, but...
How was that? Was it challenging to listen, to speak and communicate in that way? One is speaking, the other is just listening with that one goal of understanding and drawing the other one out. How was that experience for you? Good? Anything else?
Well, I hope it was good. I hope you feel your heart connecting. We want your hearts to be connecting during these days together. Our time is flying away. Oh my goodness, it's already 8:15. And we haven't even started talking about conflict.
Well, well, we will have a conflict now, that's for sure. Yeah. We can practice having a
time
conflict.
management can lead to conflict. What did they say?
They say that if we're kind, we can go 10 minutes over. But if
that
somebody
okay?
has to leave, you're free to leave, okay?
We may stretch it 10 minutes over.
Yeah.
So I heard that you're really a nice group and you won't get mad at us too
Yeah.
much.
And if you do, you will just have to practice forgiveness, so yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about conflict and crisis. I think in some ways we have talked already quite a bit about it, because when you talk about communication, we're learning about maybe how we can avoid some conflict.
So we've laid some of the groundwork. Good communication is a prevention. It prevents a lot of conflict, or it softens things. If we practice good communication, especially good listening skills, when I feel listened to, my frustration really goes down. My anger, and you know how you can feel your anger literally in your body. I feel the heat rising up when I feel understood, when I feel respected, when I feel that she really wants to listen to me. She's not here to fight. The temperature goes down. It helps so much. Mm-hmm. It's a softener. Mm-hmm. And in Europe, when I went to Europe 30 years ago, I found out that they don't use fabric softener. It was like the towel, it was like sandpaper. It was like...
Because we don't use the dryer.
They don't use the dryer either. They just wash it and hang it out on the line, and no softener. So actually, I'm kind of used to it. I kind of like it. It doesn't feel like I'm really using a good towel if it's not a little rough. When it's all these soft, super thick, it doesn't even feel like it takes, soaks up the water off. It just smears it around. But anyway, good communication is a good softener. And it can make our conflict a lot easier to handle. Mm-hmm. Because conflict is normal, we said, and it's because we're different, right?
We're different.
And
so
we're
we were thinking about that conflict is like a fire. And fire in itself, is it good or bad? It's neither.
It depends.
It depends on how it's being used. Yes, a fire can burn down a house. A conflict can ruin a household. And there is so much to repair afterwards. We don't want to do that. We want to use the fire in a good way.
But if it's managed well, it can be like a torch. Lighting up the room. Showing us both heart issues and practical issues that need addressing, that need work, that need attention. It can light up the path so that we can move forward together on our personal but also in our relational development. So conflict can serve us, it can help us if we handle it well. Just like fire can have different roles or different purposes or different functions, but we want it to be for good. Warming the home or lighting the path not burning the house down.
And maybe we have learned from our families how to handle conflict. Your family handle it one way, my family a very different way. And that's kind of how we do it, isn't it? We just copy what we have seen, copy-paste. And we think that's the way of doing it because that's how mom and dad did it. And we never talked about it. I think it's a very good thing to talk about. How are we going to handle conflict? Because we are going to have disagreements. We are going to get on each other's nerves. But how are we going to deal with it? It's a very helpful thing to actually have talked through it before it happens.
Some of us grew up in homes where like we denied it. Like, no, it's all good. It's all good. No problems here. But actually under the surface, it was not all good. It was very, very bad, actually. We denied it. Others, we just distanced ourselves. I'm gone. I'm out of here. When conflict comes up, we all disappear. We all go our own directions, our own ways, and pretend it's not there, but we run away.
Or in another family, maybe the doors get slammed, and if you have stairs, those heels are sore after you made it up to the second floor or whatever. Everybody knows that there is something going on in the house.
So many of us grew up in those kind of homes. We denied, or we distanced ourselves, or we detonated. Those are 3 not good ways of handling conflict, of handling our anger, of handling our problems. What are some of the most common causes for conflict? Well, you probably have your own list. But we all have lots of stress in our lives. We all have to deal with schedules. We all have different needs. We talked about that whole list of differences that we have. Those differences can cause collisions and friction in our relationship. We have different personalities, different preferences. How about finances? That can be a big cause for conflict. But maybe it's more about not just the finances. It could be that adds a stress, but how we communicate about finances and how we work together with finances.
Or how I spend the finances, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes that's a challenge too.
How
But
about kids?
Yeah.
Because Albanians, they say, kids bring you closer together. And we're like, no.
Yeah,
Kids are like
not our
oftentimes a wedge.
Yeah.
They're driving us apart.
Yeah.
It highlights the differences. Mom thinks this and dad thinks that. Mom says this and dad says that. And they know who to go to, don't they?
But I think through the years, what I have realized is that so many of our conflicts are about the small things. Because the big issues, we know that we have to sit down and discuss. I mean, if we're moving across the nation, we will talk about it, of course. But it's that, it's those cupboard doors that Ned thinks there is automatic cupboard doors, They're like, phew! It's possible to close those, Yes. Yeah. It's all those small things that kind of gathers up and makes that irritation. And maybe if we had just talked about it, if I just said it, could you please just learn to close those doors, that would be a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can learn new things.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can learn. And I think this verse that's in Song of Solomon 2:15, it's so true, it's so important. Ned, can you read it?
Yeah, it says, catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. And of course, this is a love letter, but there's these little foxes, and they're going and they're spoiling the vineyard. They're knocking the grapes down, they're trampling them, they're making a mess. And these little foxes, they're irritations, they're little things that we don't deal with. And then it can cause big problems if we let them build up. So catch them, deal with them, don't let them get out of control.
It's so much better if we talk about them than just close it in and say, yeah, it comes out anyway. In Albania, we use these pressure cookers. And sometimes I feel like a pressure cooker. I've been stuffing stuff. And then one day it blows up. And it's not a blessing for our family. So
make that fire into a torch, right? Don't let it burn down the house.
No. So I just wanted us to talk a little bit about anger. Because I think anger is such a part of conflict.
And like conflict is normal, anger is a normal thing too. Anger is an emotion. It happens, it comes, but what do we do with the anger when it comes? How do we deal with anger? How do we express anger? That's the real issue. And one thing that we've discovered, and maybe you have realized this too, but anger is a secondary emotion. What I mean by that is anger is usually like the tip of the iceberg, and there's much more under the surface that we don't even think about or realize. So I may express anger, but what I'm really feeling is frustration. Or I may express anger, but I feel embarrassed. But it shows itself in anger. Like, I'm ashamed, but I'm angry, because I got exposed, Or I feel unfairly accused, and it comes out as anger. But there's a deeper emotion there. Anger is like an iceberg, so there's much more to it than what we usually see. And we have found this really cool little slide called the anger iceberg to illustrate that. Anger, a secondary emotion, and if we can identify the root, that helps us to deal with the anger. So you see up top, the anger is what shows, the anger is what everybody can see, but underneath there are things like fear and loneliness, or exhaustion, or hurt, depression, worry. It's maybe too small for some of you to read. It's a whole long list of stuff. Anxiety, disappointment, and it shows itself in anger, but I'm really deeply disappointed. Disrespect. I feel disrespected. Oh, I'm so angry. Uncertainty. I'm angry that I don't have the answer, that they're not giving, Embarrassment, like I said, helplessness. I feel totally helpless, and I show it in anger. Yeah, shame. Like that, scared again, fear. Rejection. Envy. Grief. Stress. Disgust, frustration. There's a whole list, and there's probably a lot more. But when we get that revelation of, wow, the anger is just a sign that there's something much deeper, then we can help each other out. It's not like, stop being angry. It's like, wait a second, what's at the root of this anger? That's maybe a better question. Not just like, in our house, it's not allowed to be angry, and we're teaching our kids, it's wrong to be angry, but they're angry, they're kids, and we get angry, we're adults. But what's the root of that anger? Tell me more. What happened? And when we, again, listen to each other, it really, really helps. What did you want to say about?
I just wanted to say that it has really helped me so much with my anger when I realized that it's not just that emotion of being furious, but it's about understanding what is it that's feeding that. Why am I so angry? Because that has helped me to deal with that. Then I can talk about it. Because when I'm angry, what I do, I burn down the house. I have burned down many houses with my anger. It's horrible. Because I just start accusing, I start saying all these nasty things that I would never have thought I could say. I mean, I'm a holy missionary, and I'm swearing. Don't tell anyone, please. They won't support us more if they know that. But, I have had to learn to deal with my anger. And for both of us, it's been so helpful to realize that, yes, I'm angry, but it's because I was so afraid. You went out, and I didn't hear from you. You said you would be back by a certain time, and you weren't back. And I was sure that you were dead somewhere, I was so the first thing when he comes in the door, what do? I attack him because I'm just angry.
And then I'm angry because I feel unjustly judged. Wait a second, you don't know my story. You got to listen to my story. I'm sorry I'm late, but, and so I attack back. And it's this crazy cycle, of attacking each other instead of helping each other out, being on the same team.
Yes.
So anger, it's a secondary emotion. There could be lots of things underneath that. And if we can help each other, we be on the same team, say, hey, I want to help you process this anger. Then we can deal with the conflict. But when we're all angry, how do you resolve a conflict? It's like we're too heated up.
Don't let your anger allow you to sin.
That's right. It says that, doesn't it? Be angry
And do not sin.
and do not
oh,
sin.
Wow. Yeah.
You
But
know,
even Jesus was angry, though.
we know that, right? Jesus was angry. He had all the emotions that we have. He was angry. And I thought we could just look at one, do I have that here? I just have it on the paper. From Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. A time when Jesus was angry. And when I read this, think about the secondary emotion, the primary emotion, sorry. The secondary emotion is anger. But what was the primary emotion for Jesus? It says in Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 5, again he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand, and they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath so that they might accuse him. Nice guys, huh? And he said to the man with the withered hand, come here. And he said to them, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save life or to kill? But they were silent. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, stretch out your hand. He stretched it out and his hand was restored. So Jesus was angry. But what does it say? What was that primary emotion deep in his heart? Grief. Grief at their hardened hearts, you know. He loved them so much, but their hearts were so hard. He wanted them to know him and accept him and be soft and receive him and worship him. But they were there just to catch him up and to trap him. Mm-hmm. He was grieved. He was deeply, deeply grieved. And anger was the emotion that came out. You know, we know the other story when he was in the temple and he knocked down, you know, the tables and he was angry, but it was because of something much deeper, wasn't it? So that's the same with us. You know, we might feel guilty. Oh, I'm angry, I shouldn't be angry. But wait, what's this anger telling me? What's it teaching me? What's it shining a light on? How can we get to the deeper emotions and let God do his work deep in us? Not just bite my teeth, I shouldn't be angry, but okay, I'm angry. What does that mean? Help me out, right?
Yeah, so ask each other for help when you're angry. And maybe it's not the right timing to deal with the conflict right there. But we need to commit to not just say, well, you know, forget it. No, maybe today we can't deal with it. But tomorrow, when we have calmed down, when the fire has died down a bit, we can sit down and we can discuss this and we can talk about this. It's so important. And another thing is, it's good to not attack the person, but attack the problem. You know, when we have a conflict, it's usually about an issue. Well, sometimes I think the issue is Ned. You know, I attack him. And, you know, if you could just shape up, you know, everything would be fine. Life would be wonderful. Well, it's not that. It's actually something out there. So let's focus on that instead of attacking each other. Let's focus on the real problem that's out there.
Yeah,
and
so
listen well.
We process the anger, help each other out in that, ask for help, share your feelings, get to the roots, and then a lifestyle, if we work on building a lifestyle of committing ourselves to resolving our conflicts. We know that they're going to happen, but hey, we're okay now, but when conflict comes, let's try to stay on the same side, okay? Let's try to not let that fire burn down the house, but let's try to make it work for our benefit. Like you would have said, the right timing, attacking the problem and not the person, and then listening well. That's always a huge, huge help. So practicing those listening skills and just committing, like, I want to hear you. I will put down my agenda and I want to hear you. And that helps so much in resolving conflicts and in dealing with differences that we have.
And you know, a wonderful gift I have realized that I can give Ned when we have a conflict, it's to admit that I have a part of the problem. because it's so easy for me to blame him for everything. But if I can say, I know this happened, and I'm really sorry about it, and I know that I'm part of it too. I think if I can come and say that, it kind of lowers the conflict a bit. Because when we always point the finger to the other one, what do? We just put up a wall. We want to protect ourselves, we want to attack the other one. But if I can say, I'm sorry that I didn't remind you about this, instead of just saying, you promised that you would buy those things on the way home from work today, and you forgot again. Yeah, what will he say? He'll say whatever he wants to say. But if I instead could say, I'm sorry I didn't send you a message to remind you. So I guess, you forgot to buy that. And yeah.
But then you can also be honest with your feelings, but using I statements. But, that makes me feel unimportant. Like others have a higher priority and get your best attention. I feel unimportant, and that's not saying, you don't love me. It's saying, that's how I feel. That's how it made me feel today. So taking responsibility, but speaking using I statements and sharing how it impacts you, how it impacts me. You should have, but I feel forgotten. I feel abandoned. I feel disrespected. That's taking responsibility on me, not attacking my partner.
I think we stopped there.
Yeah, so we had an exercise we wanted to do tonight, but I think we're going to have to leave that for tomorrow morning. We didn't get all the way through conflict because we want you guys to talk together, not to fight together, but
no, please don't fight. Don't practice conflict when you go home, okay? But no.
Yeah, but we want to honor the time, and then tomorrow, I guess we'll then start with this exercise when conflict occurs, and that's in the booklet on pages 9 and 10. But we talked too much. We have a problem. We talk a little too much.
But we want to give some time to Ashley and Dave.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So come tomorrow ready to, it sounds like, start with this conflict exercise. And
We'll try it out.
oh yeah, and if you come a little bit early, like we start at 8:30, and it'll be kind of like tonight. There will be continental breakfast, is that the right way I should say, breakfast items in the hall. So if you do come 5 minutes early, you can get your food before we start. If you're not here early, you can just get your food while we're going. Does that sound good? And then we'll have 2 sessions, a break in between, and a lunch all together at the end. Also, in your goodie bag, there's a little paper that says before you go, and it has a QR code, because Crandall knows how to do that. He's awesome. And it has a survey, so if you are not coming back tomorrow, because I know there's a handful of you who could only come tonight, will you please take that survey? It would just really help us. It's like 6 questions, and it would help us know how we could have events like this as a church in the future on different topics or similar topics, and that would still be a service to people in our church and friends. If you have any questions for the speakers or for us or for anyone who was helping put this on, we'll be around for a while and would love to talk with you.
What time tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning, the session will start at 8:30. So at 8:30, we'll pray and start. So if you're here a little early, get your food.
And for those of you who can't come tomorrow, that exercise is in here, and it's a chance for you to practice all those things we talked about with having God as our model and good communication and listening skills, and then sharing from our heart using good communication to talk about some tougher issues and how that impacted us and the way forward. So there's some step-by-step instructions that you can do on your own too.
Yeah, one other really cool thing, if you're missing any of the sessions later this week, does that sound right, Crandall? They will be available. They're all being like filmed. So if you check our Facebook page, Bethel's Facebook page, and eventually they'll be posted there so that if you or one of you misses a session, you can catch up on that.
All right, well, thank you guys for sharing your hearts with us this evening, and we look forward to tomorrow. It was insightful and fun, and we look forward to more tomorrow. So let me just close us in prayer, and we'll see you. Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for the time that we could dive into your word and be benefited from the wisdom of the speakers. And we just pray that you'd be working in our hearts with some of this material that we learned tonight. And yeah, let it be effective. Pray this in Christ's name. Amen.